Hi, welcome to Crafting with Kimberly. I'm Kimberly Canelli, and today our project is going to be a busted canvas. This is a really interesting project to do because it looks like your picture in the background is bursting out, coming from behind and coming right out of this box of a canvas. So that's why it's called the busted canvas. It's really fun. You can see it's like a box shape. Picture on the inside, and it has these curls coming out of it to make it look like it's bursting out. For this particular one, I chose to do a snowman with snow. This is the fiber foam polyfill that you use to make like pillows. I've got that coming out from the side, giving it more of a 3D, some decorations up at the top, but really fun. So what we're going to need today and what I'm using, I am using a canvas and a hardboard canvas. So this one is a stapled back canvas. As you can see, has the staples in the back, a wooden frame. It's like a box. That's imperative. You have to use this because this is what we're actually going to be cutting to be able to curl the pieces away. So it has to be a stapled back canvas for that. This one is a hardboard canvas to paint on. If you did not want to use a hardboard canvas, you can use just a piece of cardboard. This is a very thick piece, so you'd want like a very thick piece of cardboard. This isn't going to show, this is going to be your backing. So you want to make sure that it is the same size as your canvas. So you want to cut that if you're using cardboard. Otherwise, get the canvas board as the same size as your canvas. We're using an 8x10 today. So you need your canvas, either the hardboard or the canvas board on the back, the cardboard. You need to have some, you can use wrapping paper. You can use scrapbook paper. You could also use things that come inside packages. This was like a shiny mylar. Another way to get a lot of this is if you go to Dollar Tree, they have tablecloths and they have like the holographic looking ones like this or just plain, but you can get an awful lot for just a small amount. This is a lot cheaper than buying a roll of wrapping paper if you do like a tablecloth. So something for what you're going to need: a piece for the front and a piece for the inside curls. This one I can show you again. I used wrapping paper for the outside, and then I used a silver mylar holographic print for the inside curls. You just want something that's going to coordinate. And then you want a bunch of pictures, any picture that you want. This was something that I had drawn, so you can draw and paint your own pictures. You can go on and get any free clip art. This picture was the one that I used for that one. So that's the whole picture. The little bunnies and the raccoons at the bottom, they're kind of hard to see because I put the polyfill there, but that's what that picture was. Grinch, anything really fun. So just get yourself a picture of what you want of the image to be bursting through. We're also going to be using Mod Podge. Also like an Elmer's glue stick, just a school glue stick. You want that. You want scissors. You want some things to decorate your outside for decorations. I'm using pipe cleaners. I got a long rope of garland at the Dollar Tree. Came for decorating, just a long, you could either make wreaths with it, hang it up around doorways, things like that. But what I did is I just cut them into small little pieces. So I got a lot of greenery for a small amount. Any little types of bows, jingle bells, pom-poms, little puffy shapes, other kinds of bows. You know, anything that you would like to decorate for your outside. And again, for snow, a great thing to use is that polyfill. One nice thing to have is if you ever go on vacations or you get those credit card offers in the mail, don't throw out the plastic card. These are great to be able to smooth your paper as you're trying to get it onto your canvas. So it's a great tool to be able to use. You can even cut these up when you're painting to give patterns, or if you're using joint compound to do relief art. This is a great way to get some stencils and some shapes. So that is pretty much all we need. I'm going to turn the camera around and we're going to get started. If you are using the canvas board, you don't need to do anything except open up the board. If you're going to use a piece of cardboard, what you're going to do is take your canvas, put it down on a piece of cardboard, and trace the exact size of your board. So I'm going to line that all the way up, all the way around. I'm going to take pencil and just trace right around it so I can get the size that I need. Take your pair of scissors and just cut it out. Again, I'm using a nice, heavy, thick piece of cardboard for this. Won't matter what it looks like because you're going to be covering it. It doesn't have to be perfect because, again, it'll be completely covered if you want it to be. But I now have a piece of cardboard that will fit the back and size of my canvas. One thing that I did with this canvas that I didn't do with this project is I found when I was trying to do the curly cues with this Mylar, this very thin paper, it was really coming off. I was using Mod Podge to glue it on, letting it dry, but then it really had a tendency to come away. I thought that using scrapbook paper would make a difference. I did that with this one. I covered my board with my scrap paper on the front and covered with scrap paper in the back. But you can see with this one, when I cut it, it started to come away as well. I did go through and re-glue a lot of this. So for some reason, it was just not sticking to the canvas. I used Mod Podge and I used a glue stick. So what I did differently for this one is I actually took my canvas, I put a layer of Mod Podge on the front, let it dry. I did a layer on the back, and you can see it's still a little wet looking there. I just put another layer on as well. So what I want that to do is I want that to be a covering for underneath, a coating, to see if putting then the paper on top of that will let it stick more. If it doesn't, then that's just the nature of this project. You're just going to have to re-glue. But I'm trying this for the first time of putting the layer of Mod Podge here, letting it dry, putting a layer here, and again, I used 2 coats, and you can see that it's just not quite dry yet. So it'll be interesting to see if this is actually going to work. So I'm going to work with this one instead of using this canvas board and the other stapled back canvas. This is still a stapled back canvas. So I'm going to see if this is going to work a little better. So what I'm going to do is you need to decide what paper you're going to use for your image. I am going to use the image of the Grinch, and I cut his face out after printing it. I am going to use wrapping paper to glue that down and then have that showing. And I am going to do this ho 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 paper on the outside. So you need to decide, what do you want for your outside? I'm going to do the ho ho ho. And then you need to decide, what do you want for the inside? Whatever you're using, whatever paper for the inside, that is what's going to make your curls. And I would suggest having enough paper to be able to cover your board and then cover the back of the canvas as well. Because when we go to cut this out, you can see on this one, the wood of the canvas board was starting to show through because I cut so far up. I fixed that by just putting this polyfill all around, because then now you don't even see it. But if you're concerned about it, the method that I came up with to fix that is I actually cut the paper to cover, when we go to cover the inside, I cut it larger so I could then cover the wooden part, this part of the board, so then you wouldn't see that. If you don't care, then just cut it for the inside. But I'm going to cover my board and I'm going to cover this. So I'm using basically double parts of that paper. So I'm going to actually start with the outside. I'm going to take my canvas. I'm going to push all this away for right now. I'm going to take my canvas, and I want to have a piece of paper big enough that I can basically almost wrap it like a gift, because this will be covered. We're going to be having that on the back eventually. I want enough where I can pick it up and pull it over. So then my whole side, as you can see, is covered. I wrapped it basically like a gift, and then I will put another piece of paper there to cover the backing. I just wanted you to see how that looks. But I covered the whole thing. If you didn't want to do that step, you could also take a ribbon and put a corresponding ribbon on that edge to cover the edge. But this, I found, is the easiest if you just have enough to go over your sides. So you also are going to be cutting out the majority of the center. So this whole area is going to be cut out. So you probably want to look at your paper and decide what looks good. I definitely kind of want to ho-ho-ho a little bit on the side there. So I think I am going to put, so I know there's an edge right there. This will show me that image. So I'm going to put my paper there. And then I will have enough to cover. Didn't cut that very carefully, but I'll have enough to cover all of that. So again, I would go like about at least 2 inches out. This paper has lines, which is really nice. So I can follow those lines. We're going to turn it back over. We are then going to take our Mod Podge. You could use a glue stick as well if you didn't have Mod Podge. I would not use hot glue for this part because you definitely want a nice smooth cover. So again, I covered that with 1 layer of Mod Podge already and let it dry just to give myself a smooth surface to see if it would take a little bit better. So this is actually an experiment. So we'll see if I needed to do that step. So I'm just putting on a nice thin layer of my Mod Podge. Putting that all through. Now I don't really have to worry about going on the edges. You can, because we're going to be folding those over. So you can put a little bit on the sides, but you really don't have to. I'll put a little bit for now. So now I'm going to take my paper. Again, I know I want it here. The nice thing is you can kind of lift it up, move it around if you have to. I'm going to just flip that over now so I know where I'm going with it, making sure that it's straight. Again, this is nice paper. It has lines. So I'm going to push that all the way down. Flip it back over. You can see with wrapping paper, it does want to wrinkle. And you kind of can't get away from that. You could be very, very, very careful. But it's easier just to get it on there, embrace some of the wrinkles. Smooth it out gently. Again, that's where these old room keys or credit card things you get in the mail, that's where these come in really handy. And then I'm just going to gently smooth with my fingers, trying to get a lot of the wrinkles out. But I'm not going to worry too much if it's not. If you really, really want to make sure there's no wrinkles, you can put it down a little bit and then slowly put it around. I didn't mind too much because I want it to look like it's a present that was under the tree and that it's busting through. And when it busts through, it's going to have things that get bent. Okay. Of course, I had to pick a piece that has a broken edge to it that ripped a little bit. That's a problem with wrapping paper. It does have a tendency to rip. So when I go, I'm going to put a little bit of Mod Podge on there right now just to kind of seal it if I can. And then what I will do is when I go to fold it over, I'm just going to make sure that that's really sealed. So I'm going to turn that back over. Again, just keep smoothing it out. You can see as it dries, it wants to wrinkle. Just gently smoothing. And again, I will fix that hole after. And now I'm going to just let that dry. I can set that aside for now. Now I'm going to take my backing paper. I'm going to take the paper that I've chosen to put on the back. And again, for the curls, I have two sets. So I have two pieces of paper, basically a little bit bigger than your cardboard. Same thing, I'm going to take my Mod Podge or a glue stick. Again, if you want to do a glue stick, you can. Here, I'll do a glue stick for the inside since it's not the canvas. It is paper to cardboard, so I'll show you how that's going to look. So make sure you go right on your edges. Get all the way to the edges. I'm making sure I have all the edges covered with the glue. Going all over. Just making sure that gets glued on there. This is a striped pattern, so I don't need to worry too much about which way it's going. And again, it has lines on the back, which is perfect. So I can line that up to make sure my lines are going straight. And then you just smooth that out. So you can see with a glue stick, at least the cardboard part of it, it dries with a lot less wrinkles. And it goes on very well. The glue will really hold it. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold this over, just so I have a nice neat edge. I'm going to fold that over. And then I'm going to do it just like a present with the corners. I'm going to find my edge right here. Bend that over, make a triangle. Bring that up right to the edge. Fold that down. I'm going to put a little bit of glue there. So that sticks. I'm going to put a little glue there. So that sticks. And then bring this up. I'm going to trim this a little bit because that was cut so wonky. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. This is a littler piece, so I'm just going to fold it to where my edge is. Put some glue. Put some glue. And then put some more glue. Clean that up a bit. I like to get the school glues just before school starts because you can usually find them for about 20 cents a glue stick. So I stock up. Now, if you really had a lot of paper, to save yourself a step later on, instead of having to cover this, because there's an opening here, instead of having to put another piece and cover that back, you could just make it bigger and then completely wrap it so everything was covered. I just didn't have enough paper because we used this in class already. What I did find is that with the cardboard, you can see it's wanting, because it had glue on it, it wants to bend a little bit. It does it even more so when you're using the Mod Podge. But we will fix that when we glue it to the back, because it's going to be hot glued to the back. So now I have that completed. If you had an image that was big enough, you could put it there, but since I don't, I am going to put my image there. I am making sure, because sometimes things just aren't completely even. So what I'm going to make sure is before I glue him on, even though it's square, I just want to see which way does this fit the best. Because nothing is ever perfect. So see this, I don't know if you can see it, but it does hang over a little bit on this edge. This is the way it really wants to be. So I'm going to make sure I have that going this way. And I'm going to put glue. I have a little silica pad here. Make sure you really get your edges, because if you don't get your edges, that's the part where it always wants to start to come up. So it's really important to get all around your edges. And again, you can use Mod Podge or your glue stick. So for this image, I'm going to put this just basically right in the middle. I'm just going to eyeball it. I think it looks pretty good, pretty even. I left a little white border around it just to make it pop a little bit, especially since the greens were a different green. So now I have my back picture. That will be ready to go. What I need to do with this one, now this is still drying and you can see how wrinkly it is getting. So you want to just really kind of keep trying to burnish, gently burnish those wrinkles out. But again, we're going to be cutting the majority of the center out. So now I want to make sure that I have my center covered, and I do want to cover that wooden edge. I am using the same paper that I used for this background. To me, that gives it consistency. You can use a completely different paper if you weren't doing just a small image like this. As you can see with the snowman, that covered the whole area. I didn't need a background paper. But for this one, I am using a background paper because this is also great if you have family photos. That's another great picture to put in there. That would be a really cute way to do it. Or if you're using the very little canvases, or you could turn those into ornaments with people's pictures. But depending on what your picture is, this was just the head. I had background that was going to be showing. So I am going to use that same paper to make it look consistent. You can change it if you want. So what I want to do is I want to take a piece of paper that's bigger than what I need. This just happens to be a piece that I cut to go on the outside. So I know it's bigger, but I'm going to just gently, you can see I'm just folding it. To kind of see how much I'm going to need. So I can take, you can see my outline. Again, fold it. You can see where you have to go. I'm going to just kind of do a fold it, burnish it a little bit this way. So now you can see this is the part that folds over. So I can cut that to make it a little smaller to work with. I'm going to cut a border around that. I just need enough paper to go up and over a little bit. Again, eyeballing it so it's not perfect. So now I have a piece of paper that's going to fit. If I want, I can do the stripes going the same way for a little bit of consistency, or you can go the opposite. I'm going to do it the same way. I am going to Mod Podge, so we'll see if the trick worked. But now this is giving me 3 layers of Mod Podge. Hopefully it won't be too hard to cut. I'm also going to cover the wooden sides of this. So get down on the sides there. And then a little bit on the edges too. All right. So I am going to, now you would think you would put it down, but this is the part that we're going to cut. So I need this paper to be face up. So I'm going to put it in there. Get it up into my edges. What you can do also is cut your edges to help you. You're really not gonna see this part of it. So it doesn't really matter what this outside part looks like. You just want to get it nice and smooth. This is the important part right here. Smoothing this. And just covering those outsides. I'm just moving it around, going carefully because it is wrapping paper, which tears easily. So I'm just smoothing that a bit. You can use your card. All right, I am noticing it is still wrinkling. So I think it is just the nature of the material that we're using because it's wrapping paper. But again, it was doing it with the scrapbook paper as well. So I think it is just because of the Mod Podge, just wants to wrinkle. Just really want to try to get that smooth because this is the area we're going to be cutting. Just want to burnish it down. And again, I'm going to just take like my Mod Podge, bring that up, cover it. Again, this part is not going to be seen. This is completely the back. So I can trim these little edges. No one's going to see the edge part. I just want to get that glued down. Smoothing it out as I go. Putting some glue on my finger just so I can help smooth that down. Okay, now when you are home and doing this yourself, I would let this dry completely. I would just let this sit once you've smoothed that out, because we've also got our front. So I would actually let that sit. I would turn it over. I would let this sit, and just really, really let it dry to come back to it. That would be the best thing to do. But for the sake of time for the video, I'm not going to do that. So now we're going to start to cut our image. I like using an X-Acto knife. I find that gives me a much sharper edge to be able to get a point, but you can just use your scissors as well if you need to. Depending on your image of what you're going to use, that is dependent upon where you're going to start your cuts. You don't always want to go right in the middle. For the snowman, my main focal point is his head, not right in the middle. Right in the middle would be his buttons and his scarf. I did not want that to be the focal point. I wanted his head. So if I were to start cutting in the middle, as I curled it back, I may be missing a lot of that top part. You can see I am missing a lot of the bunnies and the raccoon that's down there. But my focus was his face. So the same thing with this. You're going to look at that and say, all right, where's my image? I can just kind of place it on the top. My image is, I really want this part of his face to be seen. So my exact middle is around here. I don't want to cut there. I want to start my cut probably right about there because this is the main part. So I want it offset. So that's about right there. I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, or again, you can use your scissors. I'm going to start a little hole. You can continue with an X-Acto knife. I'm a little worried because this part isn't dry for me yet because I didn't take the time. This is why you can see how it's starting to come away. An X-Acto knife will do that. It will make it start to come away. Again, I would really let this dry. Give yourself the time to dry it. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to take my scissors. Now that I have my initial cut, I'm going to take my scissors and start cutting partway to the corner. Don't want to go all the way up to the edge. You can see where the edge of your canvas is. I'm going to just make a little slice. This is the part of what we're going to be tearing back. So I have one slice. You can see it's coming away a little bit. Again, it's just because I did not let that dry. But I am going to continue. So vary the sizes of what your cuts are. Make them a little wider, a little thinner. This one I think I'm going to go a little wider. I'm going to go up towards that angle. So I've got a wider one there. I'm going to go all the way up. There's no rhyme or reason as to how you make your cuts. You just want to go out from where you put your center. You can have as many or as few as you want. Switch to a bigger pair of scissors so I don't bend it too much. Again, mine is a little hard to cut right now because it is wet. So that's why I want you to wait for yours at home to dry. Go back to my small scissors again. And again, it's a little easier with an X-Acto knife, but I can't do that yet. All right. So now I have all of these little cuts, which I'm going to be able to fold away to do the reveal. So hopefully I put it in the right spot, and I did. So that is how that is going to look. I want that showing a little bit more, so because I see where my image is, I can go in there, cut that a little bit more to be able to fold that one back just a bit more. Same thing with this one. And because I covered the inside, I can go back further. So you may have to do that. You may have to set it on there and decide how far back do you want to go. So there is our image. So what I'm going to do first is let's take this and glue it to the back. This is where your hot glue gun comes into play. You definitely do not want to use a glue stick for this one. You definitely need to have your hot glue gun. And I just want to, you have to go quickly because hot glue dries so fast. So you want to make sure you get all your edges. I'm just starting a new glue stick in this one, and you know how that always takes a while to get connected in. So I'm just going to put glue all over, up to the edges. Just trying to get my glue stick pushed in so it'll take it. And because I've taken a little bit of time, I'm going to go over this again. Just make sure I have enough hot glue. That's actually hot. Why this glue stick is not cooperating, but it's not. All right, there we go. I'm going to put this over, put it back down, get it lined up, press it down. Really give it a good press to make sure that you got it on there. And then now we have our back attached. I'm going to keep this over. And now I'm going to fold up and around. I'm going to go back to my glue stick because that's working really well for me. You can use hot glue as well. But I'm just going to get my glue stick all going on there. I'm going to bring that up and over. I'm going to do the same for up here on the side. So I'm going to do the bottom, come back over and do the top. Now I'm going to turn it to its side. I'm going to wrap it like a present. So I'm going to fold that corner in, fold this corner in, making nice sharp edges. That is going to let me bring this up and over. So what you can do, I'm going to cover this whole back. So I'm going to just fold those up and over like that with the glue. Make sure that's got glue all over it. Up and over. Smooth it nice and tight. Same thing on this side. This is the side that had the broken spot. I may end up having to be creative and putting a little decorative something over it. But we'll see what it looks like once we get it folded over. Nice crisp edges. Fold that up, glue it. Glue it. I'm going to just fold that over. I'm going to put a lot of glue right there. And then just really make sure that gets down. So now we have all of our edges covered. I didn't put enough glue up here. So because this is the back of your picture, if you're going to hang it on your wall, you're going to put a hook there or some string, whatever you want to use to attach that. Or I have them in those little picture stands. If no one's going to see the back, you can just leave it like that and it doesn't matter. Otherwise, trace a square and glue another piece of paper on that. So here are our curls. Again, we're going to need to use the hot glue for this part. Mod Podge will not work for this part. You have to have the strength of the hot glue. So I'm going to take this. I find it looks much cuter if you have a little bit of a curl and a little bit of an end going up. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just bringing it around. You could bring it around your finger and then take that little curl up. I'm going to put a drop of hot glue right there. I'm going to bring this over and I'm just going to hold it for a few seconds there to make sure that catches. Again, mine is still wet, so it's a little more pliable and the pieces of wrapping paper are coming off a little bit, but if yours is completely dry, you won't have this problem. And again, you can go up like that. I like them that way. You can pull it all the way back and just glue it straight. You can have them just, bend it a little bit, have them sticking up. You can curl it under. You can curl it under and give it like a little curly cue like that. I don't like that as much because that, you don't see the contrast as much. So that's why I personally like the curly cues going this way. I'm going to put my little drop of glue there. I'm going to hold that on. And then you just kind of see where your picture is, how far you want it to show, where you want it to go. This one I'm actually going to have, I like it coming off the edge. It just takes a few seconds just to hold it down with your glue strings. And again, you do whatever you want for your curlicues. Again, I like it curled and up with the edges sticking up. Like I said, you could flatten it right down, curl it all the way under, curl it to the side, whatever kind of curls you like. This is your time to be creative. And if you want to add the little poly foam sticking out and over, these little curls that you've made, you can stick it coming out of that. And you're just going to take your time going around, getting them glued down. Again, you can see how messy my edges are. Yours shouldn't be that messy once you let it really dry. Make sure you hold it for a few minutes, getting it dry. And see how quickly this comes together. I did it really quickly for the camera's sake. As I said, I would really like it if you let it dry first, because you can see how this is kind of tearing a little bit just because I'm manipulating it and moving it around. Creative in how you curl it. You could always, if you didn't like that white edges showing, you could take a marker and cover it, or some paint. So that is my busted canvas area. If you have spots that have done that, you could go over it with some paint. You could put some glitter on there. You can see, because I went so far in, that's why I covered the bottom of that. So now you can see how nice that looks, that if you see inside, you see the inner part covered. So then the only thing left to do is to decorate. I'm going to show you a quick, easy bow with some bells. This was the little bow that I made with bells and a pipe cleaner, or chenille stick. I'm old enough to still call them pipe cleaners. So the way I did that is, I think I'm going to use red. I have taken one of my chenille sticks. I'm going to use a green. I don't know if I have a red. I would like a red. I don't know if yep, there we go. I would like to do a gold, a green, and a red. I would like my gold to be in the middle. So I'm going to take the one that I want in the middle. I'm going to feed that through my jingle bell. Bring it right to the center. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the green. And then I'm going to go on the other side, and I'm going to do the red. So now I have 3 little jingle bells in the center. It's like a U with jingle bells. Take it, I'm just going to twist it. So now I have my jingle bells attached. To make an easy bow, I'm going to just wrap it around my finger of how big I want it and twist twice. And do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to bring it around my finger. Get it to the size that I want. Secure that, twist twice. Now I can shape my bow and I can have ribbon. The nice thing about these sticks is that you can have this be 3D as well. So that can be sticking up as well. But that's a quick, easy way to make a bow with some little jingle bells in the middle. This again was the garland that I had cut. It was just one long piece of garland, so I just went through and cut them to the sizes that I wanted. So you can stick them in like that. If I really didn't like that tear that's right there, I could put that there, and I could leave my top open if I wanted to cover that. I could bring it all the way to the top and have that hanging off that way. I almost kind of like it going in through this way. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the one side, stick it in, hold it down. I'm going to do the same thing with this. Get some glue on that side. Push that in. I have other bows if you wanted to add bows. I have other ribbons. A neat way to make an easy ribbon bow. That one's a little short. This one's longer. If you take a piece of ribbon, fold it over, let it be a little bit longer, fold it, and then take this edge and fold it over. You'll have a nice little ribbon. So you can see I just folded it over at an angle. So I've got one right side up and I've got one bad side showing. I'm going to fold that over that way, and then you could glue that down, and you can see that's how I did that ribbon. So you can see how that makes a pretty little ribbon. I'm not going to use the stripy one because that's just too many stripes, and I don't know if I want it for this one either. No, I think that's a bit much. So I think I like it a little more subtle with just this. So I'm going to cover up that kind of bend that I had. Stick that on at an angle. So you can really see the 3D part of it, which really makes it nice. I could put some of the fluff if I wanted it to be fluffy snow. You could use small little ornaments as decorations. At Dollar Tree, they also had these cute little shapes, like these little Santa feet. Put Santa feet on there. Do a star, you know, whatever decorations that you want. They had trees. I almost think I like that. I think I like the tree. I'm going to put that on the side. To give it a little decoration here at the bottom. Yeah, why not? Let's put a star on there. Might be a little overkill, but it's cute. I know it's kind of covering up that one curl, but that's okay. I have a lot of curls. So now my eye is going to go into the middle. It's going to go over here to the side, and it's going to go up at the top. I'm going to leave those edges alone. So really easy, fast, and simple. And again, if you were going to use the canvas board, it's the same way as the cardboard. You still cover it just the same. These are a little more expensive, but it will be a little bit more sturdy as opposed to the cardboard. You really want to make sure you've got good thick cardboard, not thin, because it might bend and warp as you were putting your glue on. So a nice thick cardboard box works really well. And again, what I will probably do is take some more of that paper, and I would just cut it right a little bit on the inside. I wouldn't go right to the edge, so I wouldn't have to worry about it showing. But then you can fill that in if you want your back to not show. But add as many embellishments as you would like. Use whatever kind of pictures as you like. Again, if you use family photos, that would be really fun. If you do drawings that you've done yourself, that would be nice. That's going to be another one that I'm going to do. I have this paper, which I'm going to put on the outside. And then I have a drawing that I have done myself on the inside. And I thought these looked like Christmas lights. So that'll be the outside. This will be the inside. And then I'm going to use this red shiny paper to be my curls. So it'll be very similar to that. So you can just keep going with these for as many pictures as you would like. Try to take your paper, let it be similar to what your picture is, so you have a nice color contrast and cute pattern. So you can see, this is a pretty quick project. It's a lot of fun. The kids can do it too. It would be a great family project to create a whole bunch of pictures. So I hope you had fun. Thanks for crafting with me. This is Kimberly Keneally, Crafting with Kimberly. See you next time.